Early generation flip phones weren't exactly renowned for their stellar camera setups. But fast forward to today and we have the OPPO Find N3 Flip, proudly flaunting that crown of being the first flip phone with 3 cameras. And all these lenses have a purpose. None of them are just for show. We actually have flagship spec shooters on this little flip, so obviously I got pretty excited when I found out about that. Why? Because good cameras, have been pretty elusive in the flip phone scene, and it was actually OPPO's Find N2 Flip from last year that impressed me the most, at least camera-wise. So coming in to check out the cameras of the next generation, the Find N3 Flip, I did have some expectations, but let me not spoil you and let's just start. Setting the OPPO Find N3 Flip apart is its triple rear camera ensemble featuring flagship lenses with dedicated sensors. The main shooter boasts a 50-megapixel lens. Next is a 32-megapixel telephoto shooter that's capable of 2x optical zoom. Completing the trifecta is a 48-megapixel ultrawide lens. For the front-facing camera, we have a 32-megapixel shooter with its own sensor as well. On the software side, we have that Hasselblad color calibration from last year and a Super VOOC imaging chip which improves dynamic range and noise reduction. So far, flip phones have been marketed for their versatility when it comes to shooting, and I totally agree with that. You can prop it up, tent it over, flip it up. In any which way you want it, you can be as creative as you can get. I absolutely love this mode. Handheld mode or camcorder mode, I'm not so sure. But anyway, for recording videos, it's so much easier. It's less fatigue than doing this, and it does look less awkward, and it just adds a little bit more stability. At least that's what I've been seeing, especially if you do an extra thing and hold it right here. Flip phones are a way to find new perspectives and angles. Combined with the cover display and other photography features, it's a fun little tool to explore your creative side. Alright, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of the review, starting with those rear cameras. This triple lens setup delivers high-quality photos across its focal lengths, with the ultra-wide being the weakest. Dynamic range? It's impressive. The Find N3 Flip does a commendable job balancing shadows and brightness in tricky scenes. Soft natural bokeh is also achievable on both main and telephoto lenses, even outside of portrait mode. And speaking of that telephoto lens, detail retention is very commendable when zoomed in. Much like last year, Hasselblad tuning helps produce photos with colors that are nuanced and natural. Not a tinge of oversaturation for the most part of the spectrum, and that makes me very happy. Color is consistent between lenses as well, which shows OPPO's attention to detail. I've often encountered camera phones that have different colors from its ultrawide and main, which made it look like it was shot with different phones. But not on the OPPO Find N3 Flip. Post-processing maintains a gentle touch, avoiding the common pitfall of over-sharpening seen in many a smartphone. Where the phone stumbles a bit is in low-light conditions. It requires a steadier hand and a little bit more patience. But do the right things and you can get impressive results. Something new on the OPPO Find N3 Flip is an interval timer, and it's a feature I'm starting to really love. You can use this on a variety of things, including time-lapse, or even create a makeshift photo booth. For the front-facing camera, I'll be honest, I didn't spend too much time with it, but with the photos I did take, came out looking great. Natural skin tones are easily achievable thanks to that Hasselblad color tuning, though you might have to watch out for low lights since it's not the best. But much like my experience with the OPPO Find N2 Flip, if I wanted to take a selfie, I'll just use the rear cameras. Switching gears over to video, quality, while not exceptional, is still good and dependable. You do have OIS on the main lens, which helps smooth out movement, but for everything else, the Find N3 Flip does offer EIS or electronic image stabilization. Recording capabilities max out at 4K 30 FPS. However, if you're using the cover display to shoot, you will be limited to just 1080p. General conclusion, if you're hoping for true flagship quality video, that's a hard ask from the Find N3 Flip, but I'd say it's still good enough for the casual content creator. There's also log recording in movie mode should you ever need to grade your footage in post. While the Find N3 Flip dances gracefully through the realms of photography, it does stumble a bit on certain notes. One noticeable hitch is the somewhat lethargic shutter response. Even in good light, there's a slight delay that might make you miss a shot or end up with a bit of motion blur. There's also a touch of distortion on the ultra-wide lens, though not overly dramatic. And one of my personal frustrations are the gesture controls. It's just not as responsive as I want it to be. Looking towards the future, some of the things that I want to see on flip phones, that I want to see on the Find N4 Flip, 5 Flip, whatever's next, include better stabilization, better low light like overall, and of course a faster shutter because I take a lot of photos of cats and they end up blurry most of the time. Makes me sad. Before we wrap things up, I do want to glaze over other notable features of this phone beyond its cameras. Powered by a Dimensity 9200 chip, the Find N3 Flip delivers reliable performance, though occasional dips are noticeable, especially when multitasking. But overall, as a daily driver, it handles very well. The device's 4800 mAh battery surprisingly lasts well into the night. Its display is nice and bright with a barely there crease, though visibility can be a problem under harsh light. Additional caveats include no wireless charging and an IPX4 rating, so a bit of care needs to be exerted. The cover display remains the same size, which isn't really a problem to me, but maybe for some. You do have access to full apps, so it's still really useful. And finally, although OPPO assures the durability of its new hinge, there is a bit of a wobble and it leaves me a little worried. Admittedly, I haven't had time with its competitors like the Z Flip 5, which might make me a little less of an authority, but in my time with it, I've found that the OPPO Find N3 Flip and its cameras are a delight in its own right. Yes, there are hiccups. There's that slow shutter, slow processing I guess, and sporadic lags, but honestly, I feel like it doesn't take away from the whole camera or the whole mobile photography experience. Because of what I've seen and how I've been handling the OPPO Find N3 Flip, I feel like if you pit it against similar camera setups on non-flip smartphones, you're still getting really great quality. Performance still needs work, photo quality, great, and that's what we want. Well, that's what I want. Now, would I recommend this flip phone over all other flip phones available today? Of course not. As usual, it will depend on you. I value photography and camera quality, photo quality, and that's why I feel like the OPPO Find N3 Flip is a better match for me. But if you value other things like productivity, then you might find things like the smaller cover display a little limiting. But with how it's moving, OPPO might just be setting the pace for flip phone cameras. It's impressive how far they've come since its first iteration, and I'm sure there's much more to look forward to. So that's that for this video. You guys know the drill. Socials are somewhere down there. Recommended videos there. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Bye and see you in the next video.